Okay, so um, I will try not to ignore any question. Take all every question I receive. I want to clear the first question, somewhat funny, but nevertheless very purposeful. A question saying, what does Buddhism say or teach for one to be happy? So this is a question about a single specific thing to do, clear, straightforward, brief. What is the one thing that we need to do in order to become happy according to Buddhism? It's somewhat funny, but as I said, is purposeful. It's a question that ought to be asked, and we'll try to answer it with seriousness also, though it is obviously difficult to narrow down the entire range of Buddhist practice and Buddhist wisdom to a single uh, specific point. I would say that briefly also, uh, if one is to be happy, it will be necessary to do one thing at a time. Let's say that we can narrow it down to this really. Experientially speaking, you do one thing at a time. You never do two things at the same time. And then you will not only be happy but also wise. You become wise. And that's because if you really manage to do that, which is extremely difficult by the way, but if you manage to do that, you will observe, you will notice that there are so many profound forces that are trying to stop you from doing one thing at a time. And you will then discern that these forces are not coming from you, these are psychological forces. Nevertheless, it's not something that you choose, it's not something that you control. And that's basically how you gain access to your unconscious mind. Or as I like to call it, more evolutionary mind. It's something that exists within us, within our mental experience, and it is operating according to its own program and according to its own agenda. And it wants you to be like an animal. It wants you to be stimulated by nature in ways that are natural rather than spiritual or transcendental. And one of the means by which nature accomplish this is to distract you, all that you're always distracted, that you're always sensorially reactionary to the environment, and our inward mental experience is also conditioned by our sensorial experience, what we see, what we hear, what we smell, etc. So the natural evolutionary situation is that of reactionary, distracted, erratic attention to the external environment. Now, what does it take in order to do one thing at a time is to reverse that process completely, so that you become no longer stimulated by the endless variables of the environmental sensorial experience. And you are basically in control of the flow of your attentive energy, direction, and momentum. And that's why it's not easy to be happy, and it's not simple to be wise. The moment you try to apply yourself to this kind of practice, which is basically an important part of what mindfulness is, you'll find that it's quite difficult to maintain. And if you don't give up, and if you start asking further questions, this is a very good first question. The question how to be happy, and it's very much the question that the Buddha asked himself at the beginning of his own spiritual journey. But having found that the attainment of happiness is so difficult, then you start asking further questions, which is why. And that's why you need more questions and more answers than just this one. How to be happy. Now, the answer for how to be happy is to do one thing at a time. And this is an answer that is as simple, but also as sincere and as serious as the question itself. But because we will all fail in doing one thing at a time, then there will be need for too many more questions. And the first question that will follow is, why is it difficult to do one thing at a time? And that leads to an answer, and a further question, and a further answer. And that's basically the journey of Buddhist contemplation. The contemplative life of a Buddhist practitioner follows along that path of question and answer and question and answer, and that's how wisdom is developed. It's mostly wisdom about one's own self, one's own mind, one's own psyche. So, yeah, let's say that's is a simple answer. And if you're interested in asking further questions, then I will wait for you. I will not presume that you want to hear more.